Tucked away in the southwestern Utah desert, close to the border of Nevada, is a canyon that is rumoured to contain a portal to an alternate dimension. Gadianton Canyon was long rumoured to be strange by people who lived and travelled in the area. Stories circulated that the canyon walls would collapse in or fall apart if you tried to drive through it. Back in May 1972, 4 female college students, 2 sisters, a cousin and a friend, were returning to their dorm after a day's outing and encountered this eerie canyon and got more than they bargained for. The girls were returning from a Utah rodeo and were driving a 1971 Chevrolet Nova on Utah Highway 56 on a dark and moonless night. At approximately 10 p.m, the students at Southern Utah University were driving back to their dormitory when they approached the foreboding region called Gadianton Canyon. People around the region claimed that beyond the canyon was a doorway to another world, a frightening dimension that the early Utah settlers avoided at all cost. Over the years, many wagon trains carrying passengers and cargo became lost in the twisting labyrinth of the canyon and disappeared, never to be seen again. As the girls approached the Union Pacific rail line, the headlights of their car lit up a sharp fork ahead. They decided to choose the road that led off Highway 56, as it looked to be the safest and quickest route back to their dorm. They needed to be back at school by midnight, otherwise they would be locked out due to school curfew, and it was already 10:30 p.m. The road curved sharply away from the main road towards Gadianton Canyon in the distance. Although the girls had heard about the creepy stories surrounding the canyon, in order to make quicker progress, they nevertheless continued down the road. As they were driving, the road suddenly changed from asphalt to cracked concrete, and one of the girls screamed out as the road abruptly ended at a huge rock wall. They were now locked in by the canyon and had no choice but to turn around and go back the way they'd come. The girls then realised that the so-called shortcut had cost them at least half an hour of driving. Turning the car around, they then headed back towards Highway 56 until they reached the countryside again. A few minutes after continuing their journey, it suddenly dawned on them that the landscape had dramatically changed. One minute they were on a windswept desert surrounded by sagebush, and now there were fields of wheat, and the whole landscape was now lit up by a full moon. In the far distance, they spotted shimmering water on a large lake that reflected the bright moon. But where did the clear skies and moon suddenly appear from? None of this should have been visible that night. In that moment, they felt they'd driven into a different world. The events that were to follow would prove them right. They continued their journey and started to relax and enjoy the beautiful scenery and admiring Ponderosa pine, which strangely should not have existed in the desert. As they continued to study their surroundings, they spotted a bright light off the roadway ahead. Now they really felt lost. Where the hell were they? Because it certainly did not look like either Utah or Nevada. They looked around them in the hope of spotting someone who could point them in the right direction and help them get back onto Highway 56 and familiar surroundings. As they approached the bright light, they could see that it came from a large roadhouse or restaurant. The building was situated in the middle of a large parking lot with a shining neon light on the roof. They all tried to read what was written, and to make the situation worse, none of them could make out what it said. Although the neon light had brilliantly glowing symbols, to the girls, they just looked like strange twisted lines and weird curves. It appeared to be a foreign language, and unknown to any of them. Now, if the girls thought they were in a really weird place, their fears were confirmed when, without warning, a large group of very tall people came rushing out of the roadhouse, spilling onto the parking lot. Judging by their expressions, they did not seem too happy to see the girls, and the tall people faces appeared both shocked and frightened. They were waving their arms and shouting at the girls and pointing at the car. One of the girls let out a loud scream as a throng of people headed towards the car, and they quickly hammered the pedal for a quick exit. As they rushed to get away from this terrifying ordeal, One of the girls in the back seat were able to get a good look at their faces and were almost rendered speechless. They then started to sob in terror as they described what they'd just seen and described them as not looking human. When they first caught a glimpse of the tall people, they initially looked normal, but as they grew closer, they were able to study their faces. Nowhere on earth had they seen people that looked like these. As they sped away, the girls initially believed that they'd escaped the terror, but then the whole car was lit up by an intense light, and as the driver checked the rearview mirror, she screamed, "Oh my God, they're coming after us." Then 4 weird egg-shaped vehicles raced up behind them, humming and whining loudly. It had caught up with their speeding car. Each small vehicle had 1 large headlight, 2 front wheels, and with 1 rear wheel. The other girls screamed out, "Go faster, go faster!" The car had reached full speed. But they could not seem to shake off these creepy egg-shaped vehicles, and it continued to pursue them. The car eventually fled out of the canyon, and as they peered out the back window, they could not see the strange egg-shaped things anymore. Still fearing their pursuers would not give up the chase, they flew out of the canyon and into the desert, where the road before them all but disappeared, and they continued their journey over the rough terrain until the engine died. The girls were all badly shaken, but fortunately none were injured. Unfortunately, the car was a wreck and undrivable with 3 flat tyres, but they had at least shaken off their pursuers and felt relieved and safe. Exhausted, the girls slept in the car and awoke at sunrise and proceeded to walk towards Highway 56, which was several miles away. Tired and frightened by their ordeal into another world, they came upon a Utah Highway Patrol car and waved it over. They then told their story to the trooper. He took the report and the details of the accident investigation, which would have made fascinating reading. Strangely though, the police did tend to support the girl's testimony of what transpired that night off Highway 56 in the desert near Medina. The official report did bring up some interesting questions, such as no tire tracks being found as the car left Highway 56 as it headed for the canyon area, and of the tire tracks that were found, pointing in the direction of Highway 56, they extended only 200 yards back into the desert and then abruptly disappeared. This leaves a major question of how did the automobile travel almost 2 miles off of Highway 56 without leaving any physical trace upon the surrounding desert, unless it suddenly entered into another universe leading to a terrifying encounter.